Hey, Dr.
morning.
Morris. Good
Morning. How are
morning.
you? Good.
I'm good, sir.
Good.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Mr. Lawson.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Lawson.
Hello, sir, how are you?
Good, thank you.
All right.
You want a water or anything?
I'm good.
Okay, there's coffee too. Help yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm pretty much prepared, I think.
Okay, and I apologize. What is your name again?
Steve.
Steve. Okay, thank you, Steve. Hey, Mr. Green.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Ron.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
You can sit wherever. I just put you there because you're like me, a creature of habit. That's kind of your spot. Hey, Arlene.
Well, she thinks it wherever, but we just ain't take down. Did Robin respond with a yes or thank you?
She didn't. I gave her this line though. Hey, Mr. Smith.
Hello. Got the first one on?
No, actually we have, Dr. Morris, Mr. Lawson, Mr. Green, and Mr. Jenkins.
Oh, okay, the last one on, or one of the last. Okay. I'll give it another minute or two by my clock.
Okay, and John is not here yet, so we'll have to hold
Okay.
1 second.
All right.
Send it to Paige.
Paige, can I send you updated report that you can send to the committee? Okay.
Did you get that? It was John's car.
He responded and said.
Huh, Crystal just said. Hey, John.
Hey.
All right, Mr. Smith, we have John here now.
Okay, very good, thank you. I have that it is 10 a.m., Wednesday, February 10th. I call this meeting of the Finance Committee of the CMRTA to order. Entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion, do I hear a
Second.
second?
Second.
Very good, all in favor? Aye.
Question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr.
On
Morris.
page 5, I see in the minutes here, if you go down there at the bottom, remaining balance of $5,622,000. Ms. Andrews, what is that? Is that the remaining balance for this fiscal year?
No, that shouldn't be the remaining balance, that probably is a receipt. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
That $5
That's
million is,
probably, Is that correct?
No, let me go back. It's probably the cash receipt that we received at that time. That is not our remaining balance.
Okay, but we need to correct that. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'll correct it, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair, I'm finished.
Okay. So, on the minutes, then with that correction, do we comfortable adopting them with that correction, or with staff researching that correction, or do we want to defer the minutes to the next meeting?
No, I'll amend it with the necessary correction.
Okay, do you make that motion then?
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a second? I'll second.
I second that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Any further discussion about the minutes? Excuse me, yeah, about the minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right, very good, thank you. Item number 4, matters referred from the board. I see that there are none. Is that correct, Mr. Ando?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 5, monthly financial reports.
Hello. I'm back. And just to back up to where Dr. Mark asked, that amount that is in the minutes, that was the amount we received with our last payment from Richmond County. And now if I call your attention, page 15 of your packet. Let me get there myself. So page 15 gives you our financial highlights for the month of December. Our net income, again, excluding depreciation, because depreciation is has a non-cash value. Our net income for the month is $1.3 million, and that will be largely in part to the cash receipt from Richmond County. Year-to-date,
Ms. Andrew,
yes, sir?
excuse me, could you speak up a little louder?
Is this better?
It's a little
much
muffled.
better.
Okay, how's this?
What's the number
No.
on that
You
mic?
have your phone close to you?
Yes, sir, the mic, is this?
That's-
How's
That's
this?
better.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay, so we start out with a net income for the month of $1.3 million. Our year-to-date cumulative total of $1.5 million. Our total revenues for the period to date, $3.3 million. Year-to-date being $15.18. Again, all of this represents about 42% of our budgeted amount. Total expenses, period to date, are $2.26 million. Year-to-date, $15.17. It represents about 43% of our overall budget, with both of those being, the expenses being under the 50% mark of the year, because we're 50% complete with the fiscal year. Year-to-date will be paid to the contract operator, RACP Dev. It's $5.2 million. Below is a breakout of certain accounts you guys wanted to see, being the contract services, professional contract services, our marketing, and our security. Those amounts are listed below. And Dr. Mars, if you look here at the bottom of this page, total penny collections there, shows what we collected of the amount, and there's your true remaining balance there.
If you announce the page when you turn, we can follow you better.
I said page 15.
Yes, okay.
And that will be the end of my report. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Roz?
Hey,
Roz,
Roz,
just
I
real,
got a question. Hey,
Representative
Roz, this
Howard.
is Chris. I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, what is Brownstone, or who is Brownstone?
Brownstone is an engineering company that we contract out to head up any big dollar projects that we have.
Okay. That's all for me. Thank you.
Any other questions for Roz? I've got a quick one, Roz, just a kind of clarification question. On page 16, where you show the, okay, you actually have it on there where you're saying you're adding depreciation back. So that net
Right.
of 1.5 million is actually with depreciation added back. Okay. And then the only other question I had was, in your report, you said that we paid the contract operator 5.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
But then down on page 16, when I see contract operator under expenses, it shows just over 9 million. Is that just a timing difference? I mean, is
That, can you still hear me okay, Andy? So it'll be in that what we paid and then what we recorded are like two separate things. So you know we'll have the expenses recorded, but we just hadn't paid them yet. And you know that
That's-
we,
so the page 16 is accrual basis, whereas above on page 15 you're showing us actual cash out.
right, the actual payment to them.
And is most of that difference, that $4 million difference, is that mostly just, and I guess this question kind of for John and you, Roz, is that mostly because we have time to pay? I guess my question is most of that from recent invoices that are still within our time frame to pay?
So, and it, again, yes, it has to do with timing. So we'll get the invoice we'll get the invoice and record it, go ahead and have it recorded, and you know we have so many days to turn around and pay it. And then you have this agreement now to where you pay 90% and hold 10%. So this payment here, I just to say through what month, but I think we've only paid them through October possibly. So what you see there at the December point would be all of July, August, September, October, and the 5.2 million will be what we paid of that.
Okay, through December.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So, just to clarify, the outstanding balance with RapDev is about $4 million and something. Is that correct?
I can give the exact amount, but yes, that would be a correct assumption.
Okay.
And that was as of December. I take it there's been more activity since then.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions for Roz? All right. Thank you, Roz. Next, I think we're prepared to move on to the DBE, item number 6.
Good morning.
Morning.
The DBE report that you received is on page 38. You should have received a revised report, and the only adjustment is the amount to RATP Dale that's reflected there. And I just received their documents this morning, and I wanted to include it in the report. But as you can see on the right side of the report, there are several vendors that have exceeded the DBE MBE goal, and the ones that have 0%, we are still coordinating with those vendors, and one of the vendors indicated that the DBE would not be performing their task until later in the year. There are 3 vendors where there's no activity or no payments from the comment, so that's why it's reflecting 0. And we have 1 vendor who has indicated that they are in the process of looking at becoming an MBE firm. On the left side of the report, it shows the total contract with a DBE goal, and it's approximately $8.4 million. And of that amount, approximately $3 million has been paid to DBE. So once you do the calculation of dividing the $3 million by the $8 million, it comes to approximately 35.8%. And this number will continuously change on a monthly basis.
I got a certain amount of time this month.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Dr. Prince, now I noticed that you have there 22.5% achieved. Are we communicating with these companies so we can stay on or near what we supposed to achieve?
Yes, Dr. Morris, the 22.5% is the old report. I sent a you should have received a revised one this morning, and now it reflects 35.8%. The reason why it was lower was because I had not received 2 reports from RATP Dale, and I processed that this morning, so I submitted you probably just received it a few minutes ago. I think Paige just sent it to you. So it's really showing 35.8% right now.
Oh, okay. 35.8 is sort of high, isn't it?
Well, I think that's because of the fact that you have some DBEs at 100%, some of the firms, some of the vendors. And if you look at AOS specialty contractors, of course, they are have received almost $1 million. So I think their number also is making the total percentage exceed the 25%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But for RATP, the old report reflected, I think, 10%, but with the documents I processed this morning, they are now at 26% of that 20%.
Okay.
So.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Any additional questions for Dr. Prince? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, which is discussion and action items. Turn it over to Ransom to talk about a couple of procurements we've been through.
Okay. Andy, you want me to speak?
I'm sorry?
This is Roslyn. Are we moving on to 7A?
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Didn't hear you say no. But I'm speaking on behalf of Michelle. She's out right now.
Okay.
So for 7A begins on page 39. 7A deals with our banking services RFP. This RFP was initially issued out in January 31st of 2020. Pandemic caused us to delay for so long. But with the release of the RFP, we had 6 proposals come in. Of those 6 proposals, we're recommending, or we selected Security Federal Bank to be our primary bank and Optus Bank to be our capital reserves bank. So if you look in the page 39, requested action, the Finance Committee recommends to the Board of Directors to enter in a banking services contract with Security Federal Bank for deposits from FTA, contract revenues, Richmond County penny funds, Lexington County funds, and fair revenue collected. And all other revenues received by the comment to be deposited with Optus Bank, with the capital reserve fund, marketing and advertising revenue, and any community CDBG grants. So basically, Optus Bank will stay as currently, and we'll be asking to switch from Wells Fargo to Security Federal Bank.
Okay.
Any
questions for Roz?
Ms. Andrews, now this goes to the board. When does it go into effect?
What's this month? Between March 1st or April 1st.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It just depends on, the board's approval, if anything goes, but at the latest, I would say April 1st.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? So, Roz, I can't remember, were you on the committee to review the RFP responses?
I was not. No, sir.
Do you, I guess, you're the one that's going to implement this mostly. Do you feel pretty comfortable with the results?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Roz? Or a motion?
So moved.
And that's a motion to and that's a motion to recommend to the full board. Sorry, I just want to clarify, that is a motion to recommend this proposal to the full board, correct?
Yes, the motion is written on page 39 at the top, and
Okay.
I didn't read the whole motion, but I go along with the requested action.
Okay, very good, thank you. And we have a second from Representative Howard, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Very good, thank you. All right, next, Roz.
All right, so next up is agenda item 7B. A request for, replacing all bus seat covers on the buses. I'm on page 108. Can't remember if I told you guys, but the requested action is asking the Finance Committee to recommend to the board approval of a sole source procurement of our bus seats for 39 of the Comet's existing large transit, buses. Let's see. All right, I guess to sum it all up, we're going from the cloth seats that we have, we're asking to replace with vinyl seats for better cleaning options. Here below gives you the fiscal impact of how much that costs. And that's it in the long and short of it. Any questions?
Questions for Roz?
On the bus seat covers, we only had one company?
Yes.
One company to bid on this?
You said,
One company bid.
yes. And that's,
So this is
On page 108?
I'm sorry, Dr. Morris, I couldn't hear you.
Are you on page 108?
Yes, sir.
And I think I read in there where there was only one company
Yes, sir.
that, go ahead, speak up.
Yes, sir, it was just one company. The reason we put in sole source, when there's only one company to provide that service, we call it a sole source purchase.
Okay. All right.
Is that because of our particular buses, there's only really one seat type that fits?
That is correct. It's the seat style that we have in our buses.
Okay.
We contacted American Seating, USSC, and another New Flyer Parts, and starts with Cerrado. I apologize, I can't pronounce it. It was a Spanish name. And New Flyer Parts was the best vendor that responded. And from talking with the seat manufacturers, they said we really have to go through the bus manufacturer.
Okay. Any other questions or a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Here, a second.
Yeah, I'll second, guys.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, I think that passes by virtue of the person that made the motion in a second. All right, very good. So now, moving on to John, talking a little bit about electric buses.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, page 109. As we've been discussing in the previous Finance Committee meetings, there's been a desire to see about the opportunities to demonstrate electric bus. We've done some research, and from discussions with New Flyer and the Commonwealth of Virginia, there is a procurement available to where we can buy one electric bus. under the provisions of the FAST Act, Section 3119, that allows agencies such as the Comet to piggyback off state cooperative agreements for zero emissions technology. New Flyer has an Excelsior Charger XE35 bus that would produce 311 kilowatts for about $700,725, and that's the base price of delivery. That bus can operate 150 miles without a charge. It can operate most of the Comet's fixed routes that originate in the downtown area. Then there would be an associated ABB 50 kilowatt charger that can charge the bus in 5.6 hours, and that costs about $72,000 for $72,000. To add our optional features that we have on all of the Comet buses, this price still needs to be finalized, but it's about $20,000. And then because these buses would utilize batteries, it'd be in our best interest to get extended warranty for the life of the bus. That'll be about another $43,000. Since we are just barely meeting the 20% spare ratio of our fleet, since we're an urban operator, we would need to replace one of our 2014 Cutaway vehicles so we can stay within that spare ratio requirement. They have reached a lifespan of 7 years, and we can dispose of that vehicle through auction or donation to a local nonprofit. We're proposing, from the fiscal impact standpoint, to use $1 million of the local Richland County penny funds to cover the cost of this bus and associated infrastructure. Collectively, the bus price is about $835,000, but we're asking for $1 million just in case there's any unforeseen costs associated with the implementation of this bus. I've discussed with Dominion Energy, and I got clarification as of yesterday that because we had a hydrogen bus here in 2011 and installed a bus charger, that we can continue to use the transformer that was associated with that bus charger from 2011. And so therefore, we don't need to install a transformer on our property. We can use our existing transformer. So there would be no cost associated with that with Dominion. However, if we choose to expand the fleet in the future, we will have to construct another transformer on property. From an operating cost perspective, we would use rate 9D. That has a basic charge of 11 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Peak demand is between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. So if we want to save on electric charging costs, we should charge the bus after 9 p.m. and before 1 p.m. the following day. If we want to get a lower rate, we'll need at least 15 to 20 buses to qualify for rate 24. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Andor, I like this new bus as opposed to what we started out with initially, those used buses. I like the fact that it is battery run. The only issue that I might see or have, the bus costs $835,000, and we are asking for additional $165,000. Do we need to do that now? Could we just wait and see whether or not we need these funds later on?
I was just really asking for a contingency in case we have to pay for just any unforeseen costs. If it's the pleasure of the committee, we can, maybe if we could have like a 5% contingency above 835, and if we need more, we'll come back to the committee closer to the bus delivery to ask for additional funds.
I would think that would be the appropriate thing to do. If we don't need it now, why ask for it? Ask for it when we need it.
Okay. This is new technology, so we don't have experience with it. So I just wanted to make sure we cover all our bases associated with this. But we can come back if you're willing to allow for a 5% contingency as kind of a in case there's any price changes after we finalize the procurement with New Flyer.
Hey, so I do have a question. John, this is Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir.
Hey, good. Hey, so what's the upside, right? Because looking at it monetarily, right, we're asking for, $1 million approximately for one bus. And I get that it's new technology. However, have we sat down and calculated the upside with not using, fuel versus using the new electric technology? How does it benefit us other than kind of trying to be first to the market?
From an operating cost perspective, as you start to convert the fleet from fossil fuels to zero emissions technology, you're in essence shifting costs. So you're shifting from fuel to basically electric. From a comparative standpoint, reading studies that have been produced by EPA and Transit Cooperative Research Project, there can be upwards of 20 to 30% reduction in overall operating costs by converting to a zero emissions technology over paying fossil fuels. So this could be the catalyst towards a future transition to electric or hydrogen. Our next set of large bus replacements on the big bus side won't occur until 2024. So if this test proves successful, then this gives the board information on replacing the next 8 buses to electric or hydrogen.
Hey, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add, we're also refurbishing a hydrogen bus that we obtained from the city of North Augusta in 2019, and that would be another bus that we'd be piloting, so we'll be able to test both technologies.
Hey, so this is what I'll say. I would say, let's not be so quick here to spend $1 million on a bus for information or for technology that we don't have the answers for and to yet, right? They're still burning gas. They're still pumping oil. So let's use the hydrogen technology that we already have been given, and let's see how that goes before we spend $1 million. And from 4 years from now, not know how it's going to affect the rest of the fleet. We have time. And so that's my 2 cents to the board. That's a lot of money for one bus. And we really don't know how it's going to affect the fleet 4 years from now. That's all I have.
Mr. Endo.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Mr. Endo, are you?
Let's, Dr. Morris, if you'll, go first, and then I think Mr. Green's asking to speak as well.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson, we have discussed this for some time, and prior to your arrival. We know that, according to the research, electric buses are for the future. We know they are coming. And we thought that initially we discussed getting some used electric buses where we would have the stations, and we said, no, that's not it, too costly. So we decided to try one electric bus. And because this is the direction automobiles and buses are moving in, and we just need to move in that direction also. So that's where this committee has been leaning for some time.
I should add that we're not the first transit agency in South Carolina to have electric. CARTA, Greenville, Rock Hill, and Clemson, and starts with an S near Clemson. They all have electric buses that are running right now in the state.
Simpsonville? Is that right?
No, it's
Seneca.
Seneca. Thank you. Seneca. Thank you.
Hey, good copy, guys. I totally understand that. And if this is something that the board decided before I got here, then I have nothing to do with that because it was before I got here. However, we have hydrogen technology. So we are trending in the right direction for utilizing future technology, but using the hydrogen technology or the hydrogen vehicle that we've received, and then going to get a zero emission or a completely electric bus. I personally don't see the need in doing both. We have one. Yes, let's utilize the new technology that we have and see how it affects let's see how the product works, and then how it potentially can affect implementation of future fleets versus going to get a hydrogen bus and then a zero emissions bus where we're spending $1 million on a zero emission bus when we already have hydrogen technology.
Mr. Green, I think you had a question or comment.
I just had a question. Was there not also some federal grants for this? I mean, so is the Comet spending all the $1 million, or is there any possibility of getting any grants or anything with matching funds?
Since 2018, we've been pursuing the NOLO grant and to help pay for us to transition to electric, and we've not been successful. There's been other transit systems in South Carolina that's been successful because they've already invested local funds into going into zero emissions technology. So from conversations with our zero emissions technology consultant Center for the Transportation and the Environment, they stated that if by investing initially demonstrates to FTA that you're committed. And that would help us in scoring higher in getting electric buses, similar to how CARTA and Greenlink and Rock Hill were successful in the last 3 cycles we applied for in getting electric bus fund or NOLO technology funding. So this would be the catalyst if we want to pursue, and we'll pursue NOLO again this year. This could be the catalyst to where if we're successful, we can actually replace a percentage of the local funds committed towards getting, towards federal funds to pay for the entire cost of the bus. Or a portion of the bus, I should say.
And just so I understand, what would be the cost to basically fill the bus? I mean, how much is it for the gas versus, and I'm just talking about one time. I mean, how much is it for the diesel fuel to fill the bus, and how much is it for the electric to fill the bus?
Just from the reports that I've received from EPA, they're saying its overall cost is 25 to 30% lower. That electric is lower than diesel, depending on the charging time. So since these buses would be charged overnight, we would get the 11 cents per kilowatt. I don't have the exact number on a per bill basis, but I can get that for you if you like.
Yeah, I think I'd just be curious to see it. I mean,
so John, did I hear you? Did I understand you to say that the grant opportunities would open up for us if we invested first?
That's what CT is stating. CT is stating that systems that have been successful in getting NOLO grants have done somewhat of an initial investment in one of the 2 zero emissions technologies, hydrogen or electric. So it shows, and this is the previous administration. It shows to the previous administration that you're in it.
Gotcha.
But we have tried 3 times.
So, and another quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt. What you've put before us today would be a current year budget. Would come under the current year budget. Is that true?
That is correct.
I'm wondering if we think about this as a fiscal 22 matter in the budget preparation process and bring this as an information piece before the board. I don't know. That's sort of because of where we are in the fiscal year. and kind of where the committee seems to be, which is kind of maybe not unified in mind. I'm just wondering if maybe we bring it to the full board.
Yeah.
From a payment
Mr. Chair?
standpoint, you won't be paying for this bus until next fiscal year anyway.
Okay. Yes, sir, Dr. Morris.
Well, I was going to say, maybe we could do that, but then I just heard Mr. Andor said that we won't be paying for it until next year. I think when we discussed this earlier, we were looking at the fact that fossil fuel is eventually going to go away. And we just need to start looking at other alternatives. We only say one bus, so we'll have some experience in terms of what we're going to do in the future. And I truly believe that in the near future, most of the cities and towns that have transportation are going to go electric. Now, Mr. Andor, what you're thinking in relationship to what I just said?
I think, I do agree with you, Dr. Morris, that continuing down the path of fossil fuels is not going to be effective for us. One thing CT has told us and told other transit systems, that you don't want to just jump in to zero emissions technology. You need to build up to it. This is why we asked in 2019 to do the hydrogen pilot. And I would think from doing an electric bus pilot, it allows us to get the experience, ensure our contractor has the necessary knowledge to maintain the bus. And then in 2023, when we return to the board to ask to replace 8 buses, we now have the experience with hydrogen and electric to say and give an educated decision to the board on which is the best technology we should pursue going forward. Because the next bus replacements are going to be 2031, where you're going to have to replace 31 large buses.
Well, is it possible for us to hold off on this for a month and you send out all the information you sent out in the past in reference to electric buses?
Yes, we can do that. This procurement expires June 30, 2021. So we have some time. The board needs more time to decide.
I would suggest that we bring this back to the next finance committee meeting after you've sent out, again, all the information in terms of what you've researched on electric buses.
We can do that.
Okay. How does the rest of the committee, I guess, is that a motion, Dr. Morris, to just defer this to the next meeting?
I'm just saying, let's defer it to the next meeting.
Okay. We probably do need to have that in the form of a motion, right, John?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we postpone advancing the electric bus discussion until the next meeting after Mr. Andor has given all board members the information that he has on electric buses.
Very good. Here's a second. I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. So the next item, 7D, the fiscal 2020 CAFR.
Hi, Andy, this is Robin again. I have our auditor on with us, Robin. Robin, I'll turn this section over to you. Can everybody hear Robin
Hello.
okay?
Hi,
I think so.
how's
Yes,
everyone
now,
doing today? Can y'all
doing
hear
well.
me?
How are you? Yes, we can.
Doing well. Had a little trouble getting on to the meeting today. I have several Microsoft Teams accounts and with different entities, and I was getting blocked out of one, so I apologize. We did complete the CAFRA for June 30th, 2020. The Comet ended the year in good financial shape. It actually had an increase to its net position of $910,690. I'm sure you've all had a chance to review the CAFRA by now. Do you have any questions that you would like me to answer?
Okay. Any questions for Robin? I have a quick one, and this might just be kind of an operational question, I guess, for the finance staff. And so that increase in net assets that you mentioned, or net position, was more modest than in prior years, but still positive, which is good. Is that just a function of increased expenses?
It's a combination. Basically, your income and expenses fluctuate from the standpoint, if you have a lot of grants that are used to purchase buses, they don't affect your net position in the same manner as operational grants. And because an asset lives longer than 1 year, and so it doesn't show up as an expense in your financial statements, so it would be more of an asset that's depreciated over the livelihood of your assets that you're purchasing. For instance, in the prior year, in the 19 fiscal year, you had a lot of capital improvements to buses and what have you, and so your net position may have risen, may have increased more in that year because you purchased assets that have a life that is being depreciated over the life of those assets, and which would create a more positive increase in net position than operational expenses would. And so it's that comes into play when you look at your net position. So, as well as other items such as the change in the net pension liability and the net OPEB liabilities, all of those things will come into play and change that net position. Even though it is modest this year, I don't think there's any major change in the general operations of the Comet.
Right. Any additional questions from the committee? All right. Well, hearing none, I guess we need to make a recommendation to the full board to accept the CAFR.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to make that recommendation. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, very good. Any further discussion? Just real quick, I see that we got the GFOA award for fiscal 19. Roz, will we submit this one for fiscal 20 as well?
Yes, sir.
To be considered. Very good. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Very good. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Roz
Robin.
and Robin.
Thank
Excellent
you.
work, finance staff and everybody involved. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great job, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, item number 7E. Route 92X.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, page 226 of your packet. Coming before the Finance Committee and the Service Committee to discuss funding Route 92X, the 12th Street Extension Express. In 2018, the Board of Directors authorized the implementation of this route, which was initially funded by Amazon, Nephron, Lexington County, and Richland County in a four-way split. February 2019, Amazon dropped out of funding the route due to concerns that they weren't getting value from the route. Nephron then continued to fund the route for 2 fiscal years, and then on January 21st of 2021 gave notice that they will not renew partnership with the Comet due to lack of performance data to validate the effectiveness of the employees riding this route. Using RATP to project the cost for this route, we're projecting that next fiscal year that this route would cost the Comet approximately $95,177 to operate. Leveraging federal funds to cover 50% of the net operating cost of $47,000, that would require a split of $23,794 from Richland County and $23,794 from Lexington County. The route is performing very well. Most of the employees are Amazon related, and with some Nephron employees are using the route. The reason why we're recommending, if the committee would like to recommend to the board a 50-50 split, is because 95% of the route miles is in Lexington County, but 85% of the boardings of the route is from Richland County. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, any questions for John?
Hey,
yeah,
so John, go ahead.
yes, I have a question.
Okay, Dr. Morris?
Mr. Andor, you recommending a 50-50 split. Now, have you gotten any information from Lexington County whether or not they will, how they feel about the 50%?
We are preparing, under the terms of the IGA, we're supposed to negotiate the next year's level of service. So we're in discussions with Lexington County and each of the jurisdictions in Lexington County for their share. And we're getting ready to submit a proposal to them this week. So Lexington County is aware that we're going to ask for their, pending this board's decision in relation to the operation of this route into the future, that we would ask for a 50% split.
Shouldn't this come to the Finance Committee after you've gotten information from Lexington County? And also, have you gone through the Service Committee with this?
This is going to the Service Committee later on this afternoon.
I would like to hear what the Service Committee is proposing.
John, hey, this is Mike. So a couple of questions here. So this is a route that is already currently running, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Yes, that is correct.
And so if we would stop this route, it would be a cut of service then, correct?
That is correct.
And you're saying that the vast majority of the people are getting on in Richland County?
That is correct.
Where are they getting on in Richland County? At the main bus station or where?
Yeah, Comet Central.
Comet Central?
Yes.
So they're taking the bus from Comet Central to Amazon or Nephron then?
That is correct.
So I mean, if we were to cut the service, then they would not be able to get to work. I mean, unless they had some other way.
That is correct.
And how many people do you think that is? Do you have an idea?
So on page 228 is the ridership history of the route. And as of December, the collective ridership on the route was 1,161 passengers boarding in the entire month. And that had a passenger per trip of 19.35, which exceeds the standard of 10 passengers per trip for the service committee performance. And it was the service committee, just so that you're aware, it was the service committee chair that requested that the finance committee also hear this because of the financial implications of the route and how it crossed 2 county lines and our service equity policy. So so the service committee said they're gonna look at it from a service perspective. They wanted to hear from the finance committee how they felt from a financial perspective because of this bi-county route nature.
Now, my only other question is that why was Nephron not wanting to fund this, or Amazon? Was this because of some of the either a service problems, or we were not collecting accurate passenger counts, or what?
So starting with the Amazon issue, back in January of 2019, when the route first started, and they were looking at, we started out with 104 boardings. In Amazon's opinion, right out the gate, they just felt that was too low. They were expecting a high number. We, as well as Lexington County, we met with them and told them that it's not going to happen overnight. You have to give it time. And had Amazon stayed on, they would have seen the value by October of 2019, when the ridership jumped from 211 to 565, then got as high as 1,075. So they just left early on. Nephron, on the other hand, what concerned them was the lack of us being able to give them performance data for the last 6 months. And we don't have an answer on why we were not able to get the performance data for the last 6 months. We have posed a question to our contractor, but I've not gotten a response as of yet.
You mean performance data of on-time service for that, or?
Boardings of Nephron riders.
Oh,
You'll see that we had data collected for Nephron riders up until July.
And so the bus is still going and dropping off at Nephron and at Amazon. Is that correct?
It is,
or just
yes.
At Nephron?
Yes.
Okay. So roughly maybe 500 people every month gets there. From either Amazon or there. And I guess during their peak season of Amazon, October, November, December, some more people are taking the bus to alleviate the traffic over there.
That's correct. Especially in the holiday season, Amazon increases its production. So that's when they hire more temporary or more workers. And that's why you'll see in the wintertime the ridership increases significantly.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, John, I have a follow-up to that. So what percentage were we asking from Amazon and Nephron to contribute to the route?
25% all participants, so the 4-way split.
Okay. Hey, so I think since now we have data because we had this winter to kind of show and tell to them. I think we should, consider taking it back to them. And even if we don't get 25%, something is better than nothing, because that's less money from the counties that we have to kick out if those two companies are willing to input now based on the data that we have.
So we can definitely approach Amazon. I had a conversation with Nephron, and we did show them the data. And they're more concerned about their employees. And since we have not been able to track their employees using the service, so they in turn did an internal survey of their employees, and they found on average there was about 8 of their employees using the service. So they've just concluded from their internal survey that there's no value.
Okay, good copy. I understand. Well, at least it's something to entertain with taking it back to Amazon, which definitely saves both counties some money if Amazon is willing to put in there.
Okay, we can definitely reach back out to Amazon's regional HR person, see if we can re-engage those talks again.
Ms. Andor, are you finished, Mr. Lawson?
I am, sir. I'm finished.
Mr. Andor, is it possible for us to talk with RapDev and see whether or not we could get some hard data in terms of the number of riders we have within the next month, so we can at least have some facts when we go back to Nephron?
Yes, we made that request back in December, and we've not gotten a response back, but we can make the request again.
Let's make it again, if you think you can do that.
Definitely. We will need to, and we've also asked about Prisma. Prisma has also expressed concerns about lack of performance data, and they're questioning their continued participation. So we'll pose the question again to our ATP Dev and report back to the Finance Committee.
Yeah, Prisma.
Dr. Morris, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Sorry, Dr. Morris. Can you repeat again, Dr. Morris?
You mentioned Prisma.
Yes.
Are they connected to Route 92?
No. Their employees also similar to Nephron. They pay $45,000 a year, I believe, for their employees to ride the Comet system free of charge. And what has happened is over the past 6 months, we've not been able to get proper data of pass holders boarding the bus.
Yes, I understand that, but we don't want to cloud the issue. Right now we want to focus on 92X,
Right.
and we are asking RapDev what they do over the next month, the ridership, and share that data with us.
Yes, correct.
And John, what is the procedure? They have to present a pass or something to the bus driver that tells them they're at Amazon or at Nephron? Is that it? Or, I mean, how do we know that?
So when the pandemic hit, we reached out to each of our partners, and they sent out internal memorandums to their employees to require them to still present their ID cards to the bus operator when boarding the bus, so that we can continue to report to each of our employee partners their participation. So they're supposed to show their ID card to the bus operator when they're boarding the bus, and then the bus operator hits a particular key on their fare box to track that employee ID badge.
Oh, I see. And so one of the reasons that it's not being tracked so much is because of the free fare then, per se, for the whole system.
That could be the case.
Because are the people still entering from the rear of the bus too, or not?
They are still entering from the rear, and
Okay.
how they're supposed to show is when they enter through the rear, since the driver is looking through the rearview mirror, they're still supposed to just show their ID card. So we have intermittent data for some of the school districts, but it's not consistent.
Now, we have some barriers installed on some of the buses. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it possible to use one of those buses on Route 92X?
I would think so. We can work with our contractor on that.
Yeah, I think if we could do that, then we would have hopefully riders entering from the front of the bus, and we would have access to their cards.
Hey, John, this is Chris. I got a quick question. I'm sure you guys already thought about it, but I would be interested to see those two major corporations to see their layoff numbers. You know, working for a large distribution center myself, for a few months, people were laid off. And so that obviously is going to affect ridership if, 2 months during the pandemic, they laid off, 60% of their staff, if not everybody, temporarily to kind of get reacclimated to what was going on. And so if I don't know if it's possible, again, if it is, and we can get their numbers to incorporate that into our data, I think we can present a stronger argument here. When we kind of go back to the drawing board with those two companies, or at least Amazon.
So I can tell you, yeah, as it relates to Amazon and Nephron, they actually ended up hiring more people during the pandemic. And you'll see that collectively, when you look at the ridership between April and December, it started to increase more than the same time the previous year.
Okay.
So this route actually provided value. There were even some cases where if we were short 35-foot buses, they had to send out 2 cutaway buses because of the crowding conditions that were occurring on 92X.
Okay. And even with all of that information, they still are not willing to be participants in funding the route.
At least I haven't had any conversations with Amazon since they dropped out in February of 2019, and I'll start those conversations today again. But Nephron, yeah, I had a phone conversation and I walked through the data with their VP of Corporate Affairs. I have a good relationship with the owner of Nephron. I even talked with her, and she just basically concluded that she just didn't see the performance. She said it was a good investment early on, but unless I can provide her some hard data to show that there's more people using the service, she just thinks she just needs to bow out at this time.
And so for me,
I mentioned that I could come back again in a year, and she'll reconsider after things kind of change.
And so for me, in closing, I assume, just like Amazon, the Prisma activity also increased because of the pandemic, whether it be patients who are going to be seen or more healthcare providers. Did activity increase for the hospital area?
I would want to say that's the case. And I think our only solution at this point, since we don't have the data from the buses, is we're going to have to do similar to what Nephron did and work with Prisma and to see if we could survey their employees internally to ask how many of them are using the common system so that they can get their value.
Thank you. That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Any other questions for John? John, I have 2. One is the timing. At what point will this route cease, or can we no longer justify running the route because we really don't have a dedicated funding source? How urgent is it? So that's 1. And 2, is the route serving the greater system apart from those 2 entities, Nephron and Amazon? So in other words, is it a valuable route to the system regardless?
In my opinion, I believe that it is a valuable route to the system. It provides, I don't know if some of the board members do recall, previous to this route operating, the Comet constantly received requests for service to Amazon and Nephron from SC Works to provide job access to low-income residents of KC, West Columbia, and Richland County. So right out the gate, it took a while, but as Amazon and Nephron started promoting the service to their workforce, they've actually been using it as leverage to increase their workforce. So this route has value regardless if they contribute or not. From a service equity standpoint, because of the policy the board adopted, this is why we're bringing it to your attention to ensure that we are compliant with that policy.
Right.
We also
And-
charge a premium fare on this route, $4, as compared to the $2 that are normally charged on the regular Comet route, to help fare revenue in covering the route's deficit costs.
So, given that, how would this affect, how does the fact that both entities have decided not to fund affect their own employees? Do they no longer get that free pass?
Yeah, so with Nephron dropping out as of January, their employees can no longer show their ID card to get the free ride. So they'll end up having to pay the $4 like the Amazon employees.
Okay.
And this, you did ask one question I didn't answer, and I apologize. From a timing perspective, since the agreements with Nephron was from January to January, as of now, the route is in a deficit mode, having to be picked up by Richland and Lexington.
So effectively, we need to
January
kind of,
31st, yeah.
gotcha. We need to ratify kind of what's already happening or decide to discontinue the route.
That is correct. Our request to Lexington County would also include the balanced 6 months from February 1st to June 30, and then one full fiscal year of the route's cost next year.
All right, so given that, is there any motion or direction from the committee?
Hey, so I would put a motion that we kind of kick this can to the next finance meeting. That way we can get some guidance from the service committee and before we make a final decision. So that would be my motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? Just a quick follow-up question from me. That I want to make sure that, you know, we're aware as a committee and that the board is aware that effectively we are already funding it outside of that original agreement, but that we recognize that in this motion to defer to the next month. Okay.
That's correct.
Any other discussion? Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good, thank you. All right, I think the last item under number 7 is mid-year budget discussion.
Hello again, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so this is Rosalind. Again, we're starting at page 231. 231 is where we review and recommend any mid-year budget adjustments. As in previous years, at the mid-year mark, we go back and do a review of all of our revenues and expenses to see how they're performing. Our main focus will be those that have hit the 50% mark, since we're at 50% complete for that year. We've attached all of those, the complete budget line item, and highlighted out those where we want to either add, shift, or reduce their funding line limits. In page 31, underneath the background and summary, is a summary of those revenue and expense changes. With the revenues, we're increasing the passenger revenue fares with the probability of reinstating fares at April 1st. We came up with that amount based off historical figures from April to June. That we're removing revenue We're reducing revenues from our contract revenues. Columbia College and Nephron have decided to not renew their contracts. We're reducing the human trafficking grant. Again, that was a delay in implementation. We want to increase Richland County penny, our fuel taxes, and our CARES Act money. We're decreasing revenue for lower collections from the hospitality tax. We're switching FTA Section 5311 funding to our general to the CARES Act funding line item. We're increasing funding to cover additional capital projects for our driver's seat, our propane canopy, as well as 12 new university buses and a Lucius Road Superstop. A summary of the expense changes. We're increasing our membership line item to account for our membership with CAS. We're also increasing to cover some COVID-19 related expenses. We're decreasing our payroll service provider. We went out to do a RFQ. We got a couple of quotes from a new payroll provider, and their services are less than what we were with our current provider. We're increasing our training activities to allow for training with the new buses and training of some new staff between RCP Dev and the Commons. I forget the exact period, but you guys suggested we increase the subsidy for Uber and Lyft to $8 per ride, so we did an increase for that line item. An increase in our diesel and gasoline. We increased our fleet size with revenue and non-revenue vehicles, so we're having to put more gasoline in vehicles. We're decreasing the hydrogen fuel. We only did that bus for 1 month. We originally projected for 12, but we only used it for 1, so we're doing a decrease there. We're having to increase our IT costs because of additional software services that we need. There's an increase in our professional services with Robinson and Burr, Foreman, and McNair. Each amounts are listed out next to it. We have an increase in our networking and bandwidth on the buses. So because most things are going with COVID and most people are doing stuff virtually now, we had to increase our bandwidth internally and for the buses. We increase for additional items for the buses. With the comment of the new contractor, we also had to purchase new furniture, so there's an increase on that line item. There's an increase for a request for 39 buses, the driver's seats that we spoke about earlier. There's an added cost for the one electric bus. I think we may need to revisit that since you guys are putting a halt. So right now, there's a tentative request for the one electric bus. We added in additional costs for the bus shelter match. We added in costs for staff travel expenses related to the intermodal project, and added in capital lease, interest equipment, added in expenses related to the capital lease for our fitness equipment. Below all of that, the fiscal impact stated the overall budget net change for operating and capital budget is at a minimum. The current level of service with opportunities to improve the quality of delivery without increasing the member agency contribution. The amended budget will continue to be financed with federal grants using FTA 5307, 5310, and 5311, as well as fair revenues, Richland County penny funds, Lexington County general funds, and miscellaneous funds. Are there any questions?
All right, question
yes.
for Roz.
I have a question. Ms. Andrews, on page 237, I noticed legal increase. We are asking for amended budget in the amount of almost 400%. And also explain the engineering design in major increase. And the other contractors was special projects, the last one on the page. Those are some healthy increases, and I need explanation.
Okay, I will let John explain all of those to you.
Starting with legal, there's just been an increase in legal expenses, which has resulted in the need to significantly increase the legal costs. Engineering, that is as relates to the intermodal project. The intermodal committee has made a recommendation to the finance committee and the board, which was approved at last month's board meeting, to start doing engineering, design, environmental, and survey costs related to the construction of a intermodal facility near the Amtrak station. As it relates to special projects, that also includes some of the costs associated with the intermodal project, engaging in a federal lobbyist to help us lobby for grant funds, help us with grant writing assistance for the BUILD grant to pursue the intermodal station. And then we recently have installed automated passenger counters on the buses as a demonstration, and we leased those for a 1-year period, so to pay the cost of that lease, which is about $9,600.
Back on legal, I don't understand why legal is, you're requesting $223,000 for legal. Could you explain a little more in detail exactly why we're asking for this amount?
Yeah, legal hired a consultant in the cost of $60,000, and then the RATP dev dispute is being charged outside the retainer cost.
Okay, we probably need to discuss this further at the board meeting. Down at engineering design, what are we doing there to increase that amount?
At the last month's board meeting, the board approved a budget amendment to include costs to build an intermodal station, which is one of the items in our Vision 2020. And that includes basically having the engineer do engineering design, as well as surveying of the property and any necessary environmental. The engineering costs are funded with federal funds at 80%, and we're only paying the 20% local match on that.
It is my understanding that at the last board meeting, it was brought to the board that we consider one of 3 sites. Now, I heard you said a specific site. Was that approved by the board?
No, not a specific site as of yet. This is just to do the work associated with the 3 sites that we are looking at.
And what kind of work do we have to do at the 3 sites? I thought we're going to choose one site and do the work at one site.
That is correct. We have to do some preliminary work at the 3 sites to determine which of the 3 sites would be appropriate for us to consider pursuing. So it's basic preliminary engineering, like determining how do we build the bus turnaround, how do we build the building, the platform for the train. So
and that will cost $225,000?
I'll give you the exact amount. We have a broken out budget for that. 1 second. Yeah, for the preliminary engineering, the estimate that we got from our current contract engineer, we're looking at $200,000. That's based on the civil engineer at $153 per hour. The surveying is $3,400, and then the environmental is $22,500.
I don't think we should approve this. I think we should have further discussion at the board level because just too much expense.
Okay. Is that your last comment or question, Dr. Morris?
Yeah, that ends my comment and question.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments, questions? So I've got just a quick clarification. The two items that we deferred earlier in this meeting would have an impact on the budget, right? So it sounds like the route funding was already contemplated in this budget change, the 92X. But that this does not contemplate a current year outlay for an electric bus. So I just wanted to, can you all speak to that?
And, Mr. Chairman, can you please restate the question? I want to make sure I understood it.
I'm sorry? Oh, repeat it? I was just saying that the two items that we deferred earlier in the meeting would potentially have an impact on an amended budget. And it sounds like the 92X funding is contemplated in this amendment, these amendments, but that not the electric bus.
So presently, we're contemplating, but pending today's discussion, we contemplated the electric bus and the 92X in this amended budget to make sure that we could even afford it before presenting. So it is included in the amendment if the committee had approved those two items.
Okay. So would it, and this is a question to the committee, would it make sense, I hate to keep deferring stuff, but would it make sense to defer the budget amendments until we have clarity on the other two?
I think so, Mr. Chair.
There's no real requirement. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondering about the legal. Would that stop us from hiring the consultant if we don't approve this?
Good question. John, can you speak to that?
Councilmember Green, can you please restate? You cut out. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I said, if we do not approve this, would that prevent us from hiring the consultant or the consultant continuing his employment with us? I mean, for the dispute with RapDev.
What's going to happen is the legal line item is going to go into a deficit, since we only projected $63,000 initially for legal services.
And frankly, that's the board approved that, so that's not a staff or administration. You know, the fact that that line goes into a deficit would be not their doing.
Yeah, some of these are previous actions of the board that we just need to memorialize into the overall mid-year budget, which is what we're doing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Whether or not it's included is not too much of a concern with me. I think that we should have a discussion at the board level, and Mr. Andrew will give us a itemized report on why we increased it from 63,000 to 223,000, and the same thing with the 575,000. I am not clear on the 575,000 because I don't think the board has approved a site, and we are creating a budget for the amended budget so we can go out and spend money on something the board has not approved. So therefore, I think it would be no more than right to hold up and have a discussion on these items at the board.
And so Dr. Morris, as a process question, I think staff is doing this correctly. They're running those two things through us first as a mid-year budget or amendment. It sounds like what you would like to see is that the board have a larger, so that we just don't make a recommendation and that the board have a larger discussion about those two things, legal expenses and then the engineering costs, I believe, is what that second one is.
Yes, and the other contractors, tell me, what contractors are you talking about? And if you could show this in writing and we need to approve it, then we'll do that.
So, Dr. Morris, are you saying that you would approve everything else except for those two?
Those three, yes.
Those three. So,
other contractors.
So you'd be fine with passing the other stuff except for those three, just separating those three out?
Yes. I just want to have a discussion on those three.
And for my clarification, I know two of the three. What's the third one?
Other contractors for special projects.
It's the very bottom line, Andy, on page 237.
Okay, I'm a page off here. Okay, all right, I gotcha. Okay, well, so one approach we could take is to, as Mr. Green suggests, adopt everything else as budget amendments, and then consider the other three after further review.
You mind listing those three again? Make sure I have that.
Legal is number one. Engineering, design, environmental, and surveying, number two. And other contractors for special project, number three.
Okay.
So Dr. Morris, would you like to make a motion to that effect, that we recommend to the full board adoption of all of the budget amendments except those three just named?
I certainly would. So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Aye.
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 You're good. Okay. So we will consider those other three items after further, I guess at the next meeting, correct?
Yes.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, from a process standpoint, I'll make sure I understand. You want us to separately, as a separate agenda item, bring up those three issues apart from the amended budget that's being recommended?
I would leave an agenda item for mid-year budget amendments, just like it's there today, 7F. We've already passed one, or we've made a recommendation for the board to pass one set of amendments, and we're just simply potentially adding to those amendments after some further discussion by the board.
Okay. And I would presume that would also include 92X and the electric bus, which is on hold?
Right. That's my understanding. My understanding is that, yeah, I guess we didn't really, we kind of did just pass the 92X, didn't we? In that motion, we didn't really carve that out. I'm personally okay with that motion, that the way it's we've crafted it. Dr. Morris, are you?
I mean, ultimately, Mr. Chairman, we can't make the expenditures for those two items until they've been resolved. Because 92X is a policy issue, and electric bus it exceeds the executive director's authority. So even though they're in the budget, we still can't make an expense associated with them until the board formally authorizes us to. So I think from a process standpoint, I still think you're okay.
All right, everybody on the committee feel comfortable with that?
Sure, that's fine.
Very good.
And then one last thing, Mr. Chairman, just remember again from a process standpoint as well. At the last board meeting, which was item 5G, the board recommended, the Intermodal Ad Hoc Committee recommended to the board for the Finance Committee to consider a budget amendment related to starting preliminary engineering design and associated activities for an intermodal facility. So this was from a recommendation from the chair to the board to go back to the Finance Committee. So are we saying, so if I'm hearing you, you want to have this same item get sent to the board again for a global discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Like I said before, I think, you're giving us these amounts for amended budget. This has not been discussed at a board meeting. All I'm asking is that you itemize it. Tell us, what's the expenses, what's the additional amount being paid for.
Okay. Okay. We have that available, so we can present that.
Is that, just as, again, a process question, it sounds like some of this discussion we're wanting to go to the full board, but some of it may just need to come back to us next month. So if I remember the conversation correctly, Dr. Morris, you wanted the legal discussion to happen at the board level, but what about the engineering?
Well, I mentioned that all three of those should be discussed. What I'm asking Mr. Andor to do, if we are asking for such a large amount, then tell us what this amount is being spent for. And he could share that at the board, or we could just exclude those three and come back to the Finance Committee and discuss what the additional amount is for.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a conversation that John and I can have with Derek as chair, how he might want to handle that.
That'll be fine, as long as we handle it either through the board or the Finance Committee.
Okay, very good.
All right.
All right. Any other items to come before the committee? Okay.
That should do it today, sir.
All right, thank you. Nothing in number 8, legal contractual personnel requiring executive session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
for
you
a good
very much.
meeting. Yep.
Thank you.
Everybody
Bye-bye.
have a good day. Bye.